Coming up on Theater Talk.
You can give the illusion of being beautiful on the stage, but a camera can be cruel. I hope this one isn't.
Oh, don't say.
But I don't have that kind of vanity, and of course it's obvious why I don't. But I mean, why think of acting in terms of how you look? You can't think of your life in terms of how you look. That's it. You do what you can.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
I just turned 72.
Well, good for you. I just turned 35. A very mature 35. I told a journalist who felt the need to ask.
I embrace my age. I love it. I love it. I love it.
That is a goddamn lie.
Well, of course it is. I don't appreciate the profanity, Lee.
No, you never did.
This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. The most glamorous and wonderful couple on Broadway is sitting right here in our studio.
And beautiful, and beautiful.
Here to introduce them, the glamorous in his own odd way, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
I'm delighted to be joined tonight by two of my favorite actresses, and I know that they're Susan's as well. MARIAN SELDES has been on this show, I think, 4 or 5 times, always one of our favorite guests.
Thank you.
Welcome back, MARIAN.
Thank you.
And making her virgin appearance on Theater Talk, her partner in crime, Angela Lansbury. Welcome to Theater Talk.
Thank you.
And congratulations to you both on your great performances in Terrence McNally's play Deuce on Broadway.
Thank you.
And before we start, Angela's been nominated for a Tony Award, and I just want to go on the record with this. You were robbed. I think you should have been nominated for the Tony Award as well. I don't know how they can separate the two of you because those performances work so well in tandem.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was outraged, and I feel I share it with MARIAN, and absolutely.
And how do
if
you
I
feel
ever
about
got it, simply the nomination.
I just feel lucky that I'm in it. I really mean that. And it would be wrong of me to say anything else because I admire the other actresses who have the nominations.
Yes.
The play has taken some hits in the press. I have to say, I found it really quite much more moving than the critics have given it credit for.
Well, many found it.
Yeah,
moving.
because it's the only play I've seen on Broadway that deals with aging and getting older, and I think a very honest way. Fair assessment of the play?
I think so. I think so. The odd thing is that I don't feel old, and I don't feel that I'm at the end of my career or anything like that. But I feel that everything we say about getting older in the play is important and true. The thing that I love about Deuce is that it seems all to me real. And in my career, a lot of the things that I'm lucky enough to have done are on a different kind of reality, a kind of theatrical reality. And when I read Deuce, I thought, oh, I can be a real person. And that's what I hope I am. And the real concerns of the women in this play will be or have been mine.
We should say you play 2 retired tennis pros who'd been a famous doubles team, and you're being honored at the U.S. Open.
We're great athletes, great.
Is it a metaphor in some ways, the play, though, Angela, for a life in the theater in some ways as well?
I don't see it as that.
No.
I truly don't, because I think that a life in the theater is never, well, it's never altered necessarily by age. In the theater, in the movies, yes, by goodness, yes. But in the theater, no. I mean, MARIAN and I can both look forward to continuing our careers. We're not ending with Deuce. And when we wave to that audience, it's as it is as the athletes, not as Angela and MARIAN. And we're going to go on and have long careers after this.
The Odd Couple next, the all-female version of The Odd Couple.
Wouldn't be a bit surprised. So it certainly isn't a metaphor for our lives.
Yeah.
I think it was sort of set up slightly as that,
Yeah,
and
bound
it is
to happen.
untrue.
Yeah.
It's not true. And I think that maybe upset some people because they felt when they were asked to look at us and say, you will not see their likes again, you were looking at Marian Seldes and Angela Lansbury as not being seen again.
No.
Well, that's not true. We're going to hang around for quite a while. You
I'm
know?
so glad
And
you say that, because I'm one of those people watching the play when they says, you know, look on these wonderful women, you will not see their likes again. And I was thinking, but I see Marian in 3 plays a season.
Exactly.
And I'm glad that you moved to New York. And I thought, I don't think this is Angela Lansbury's farewell to Broadway. I think she's like, I'm back. I'm going to be a working actress again. I hope. I hope.
You're absolutely right.
This is the plight of the many women who are in sports or dance or movies, as you say, who have these dazzling careers as young people and then just have to go and sit around and be in retirement, which is the very sad plight of your characters. Very different from what you've done.
Certainly. We sit and talk about that very thing, and it's very evident that these 2 women, because they were great athletes, they really had nothing to fall back on, except Marian has her family, and she lives in Maine, in a kind of a backwater, as I refer to it, has perfectly probably a beautiful lake or someplace, and has a very good life. I, on the other hand, have had a life of disappointment. So, I mean, that's the difference between the 2 of us. I came from a family that didn't have any money, and I came up by my own bootstraps, and my father's beating me on the behind occasionally, and I became a tennis player, and that's how I found fame, money, and romance. I married a very rich man and had a wonderful life with this man who was killed. So that's my little story, you know. Marian, on the other hand, was deserted by her husband, but has a wonderful family, a lot of grandchildren, and is probably perfectly happy. But when you bring these 2 together and they start to intermingle their lives' histories, you realize how people who have been famous in their youth have to settle along the way for a different kind of life. Some of them never are able to. I'm one of them. My character is one who never really was able to settle, and whereas the Marian character, I think, does. Do you agree with me, darling?
But you get the sense, though, that your character, she misses the limelight.
Well,
a little bit, don't you think?
No,
I don't think so.
I think she thought that was a part of my life, and that's over, and now I have another life. I think she's really more centered about life, but the end of the tennis career for Angela's character, for Lee, was just like a tragedy. Yeah, really. And I could understand. I mean, if you said to me, you can't act anymore, you don't realize this is your last chance, I think I'd go mad. I don't know what I'd do. You know what I'd do?
I would go mad. I can't imagine a season without you in a play.
What would you do?
I would go to the theater. If I
she
have
does
a
go to
ticket
the
for the theater, I'm happy.
I think Marian is absolutely besotted with theatre.
I am.
It's in a wonderful way. I mean, her tenderness and her care of young actors, her understanding of their problems, what she gives them in the way of help and advice and all the other good things that are so necessary to support somebody who's going to take their life in their hands and become an actor. You know, anybody who is able to deal with and help those people is extraordinary. I wish I had it. I don't.
You don't?
I don't believe I do.
You do it by example.
I do it by example, yes. And young people kind of get me, thank goodness, you know. They get my message. They know that I'm on the level, and I'm, you know, and they get that. That's all they get from me. They like to watch. Marian, on the other hand, is a great, great teacher, as well as being a wonderful example.
Yeah, I know.
And
Have you ever taught acting?
Never.
And you would have no interest in teaching it?
Well, I'm just starting to think about it. I'm starting to think about it because I have such strong ideas myself about how to go about it, that maybe I could help young people.
That would be quite much.
To get rid of some of the dreck that's attached to acting that I don't think is necessary, and just sort of messes up and colors the water and muddies the water of the true inspiration of acting. The whole approach, I think, is much simpler than we let on sometimes.
How do you tell the kids to get rid of the dreck when they're in your class?
What do you mean, dreck?
Her word.
No, I'm joking.
The falsehoods
But
about
But the interesting thing about Angela's life as an actress is that she was not trained. She became an actress. It doesn't have to be trained. You don't have to be trained if you're lucky enough to work.
Well, how old were you when you started working?
I was, my first professional show was 17.
Yeah, 17.
But that's the problem, though, now, because there are lots of acting schools, but there aren't a lot of plays for kids to do. I mean, if
and
you're 17,
things like summer theater,
summer stock, all of those things where you would, I think, learn how to do what you do. That whole world is gone.
But Angela, you learned from the movies, didn't you? I mean,
well, I started in the movies.
Started movies very
I
young.
started in the movies with Gaslight, and then finally went back to the theatre a few years later to Broadway and Burt Law and Hotel Paradiso.
sure.
So I really didn't feel I'd been judged, or that I had really faced the critics, the Broadway critics, and I didn't feel I'd arrived until I came to Broadway. Brooks Atkinson, I mean, those old...
They had critics in those days.
They were
Your
critics.
father as well.
Yes, indeed.
Your wonderful,
Indeed.
wonderful
Exactly.
father.
And
Gilbert
Angela
Seldes,
and
the
I
great writer.
both got our equity cards by working with Burt Lahr.
Yes.
There's so many connections in our lives.
Which one did you do?
What did you do with Burt
Well,
Lahr?
in summer theatre, burlesque. And I played a
you imagine?
burlesque dancer.
Isn't that wonderful?
And of course I was so upset to play this stripper. And so apparently my face was just such a sad face. You see this stripper standing there. And Bert thought it was so funny, and he'd send it up.
And what was the extraordinary thing about Burt Lahr?
My memory of him was that he was absolutely adamant about nobody moving a muscle when he was delivering a laugh line. Nobody was allowed to shake their hat, and this was a costume piece that I was in. You had to stand absolutely stock still while he delivered the whammy, the double whammy.
And Marian, what did you see in Burt Lahr that made
His
him...
sadness. He broke my heart. Because I think of the theatre and one's life in it as a joyous time. And he moved me very, very much. He was an awfully good actor in burlesque. It was really an acting part, and he did it beautifully. So it was a fascinating experience. And then Anne Corio did the strip dances, and then I was, I think, 17 at the time, and then I'd go to the theaters before we'd get there, and I would teach the new people in the play how to be strippers.
I love it.
It's unbelievable.
You got a little sideline going there, Marian.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
And from this
And you can
brings-
still see it in my work.
I want to go back
Sorry.
to this subject of aging. You in your career were always an example because you started playing character parts and middle-aged women when you were 30.
I didn't go after those parts.
Right.
They came to me, and it was always a bit of a shocker. But I wasn't shocked for very long. Then it became a challenge to me to prove that I could do it. And then you go ahead and do the necessary to make yourself appear.
It's just interesting thinking about the movie parts and the perception of you on stage, because you're this beloved musical theater figure doing a part like Mame, where everyone just wants you to be their Auntie Mame
Forever.
And even Mrs. Lovett, yeah, okay, you kill people and cook them in the meat pies, but you're still lovable. And yet the movie roles were always the cold, manipulative woman. How come there was that disconnection between what you did on stage and what you were doing in the movies?
It's what we call acting.
But also, I think that when you've had a long career, people think that you've made the choices. But in our cases, we've been asked to do certain things, and we know that if we don't work and don't act, we won't be better actresses. So we go ahead with it and do each thing as specifically and differently as possible. But I remember Harold Clurman saying to me once, "You are a character actress," and I thought, oh, what a wonderful thing to be told.
The best.
I love it.
It's
I
the
mean,
best
isn't
thing.
that the point?
Yeah.
To play the character.
Did he tell you when you were younger?
Pretty
when you
young. It was when I did The Ginger Man off
Mm-hmm.
Broadway. 1963, not a hard date to remember because it was just before the shooting of the president. But I think of it as a great compliment, and of course I think that the character... Look, I began my career with Judith Anderson. She was a great theater star, but she was always a character actress.
And also, character actresses, they get the best parts. The ingenue parts can be
Well, then you're
pretty
back with
dull.
those tennis players
Dallas
fighting
did
for
for her.
parts,
Yeah.
fighting for
And where are
work.
those ingenues today?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot to be said for being a character actress,
Did you
although it was
have to-
practically a dirty word at one point, you know, and it is still with some people.
Oh.
But I've always said it about myself, loud and clear, because I knew it was the case.
Was it sort of code for, oh, you're an interesting actress, but you're not a great beauty?
Yes,
is that what it was code for?
Absolutely. Oh, God, yes.
But you see, you can give the illusion of being beautiful on the stage, but a camera can be cruel. I hope this one isn't.
Oh, does it?
But
for you,
I don't
darling.
have that kind of vanity, and of course it's obvious why I don't. But I mean, why think of acting in terms of how you look? You can't think of your life in terms of how you look. That's it. You do what you can. You
But
know?
Angela, you were at MGM when they were sort of torturing Judy Garland down to fighting weight. Were they doing any of that to you?
No, because...
You were a character actress.
I was a character actress. No, I was playing M in the Harvey Girls, you know, with Judy.
But you were the bad beauty.
I was a big bad, you know, bosomy, bouncy girl in those days. And it worked. That's what they wanted.
Of course.
And, you know, even though I was terribly young and playing a madam, you know, probably a 30-year-old, but nevertheless, it was a challenge. I was going to prove that I could do it. I had to work at it, but I did. And as a kid, I enjoyed that. You know, that was fun.
Let me ask you, you are on stage all the time in New York. You have not been on stage in, what's it, 28 years or so? Was this the...
Well, the last time was in 83.
83 Maine. the
83
revival.
Maine, yeah.
Yeah. Were the chops still pretty good when she started rehearsals with you?
Oh, what a question to ask me.
I was going to ask her, but I want to mix it up.
No, what I mean was that before we even started rehearsal, I'd been to see Angela's one evening performance in her Dorothy Parker evening.
Yeah.
And the evening was about to begin, and the actors came on the stage, and she came on, and there was this thunderous sound like the ocean roaring at you. And it was saying to her, oh, you're back. And it went on and on until it was almost frightening. Well, we get that every night when they see her now. Because it's, well, of course, she's always ready. She's the most professional actress I've ever worked with. The idea, I smiled when you asked me the question, because what if the answer was, gee, she didn't seem to know where she was? I would have difficulty going back to work tonight.
I'm trying to mix it up, darling.
I know.
But did you feel you're back in the saddle after all those years?
I didn't take anything for granted, let me tell you. I was very concerned, very worried about my ability to learn this play. Well, I had good reason to.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Just the memorization of the lines?
Just the memorization, because it's a relentless piece. It's only the two of us all the time, except for the occasional interjection of the admirer and the folks upstairs that give us a little rest, you know.
Right.
But the rest of the time, we never stop. It's back and forth and back, and it's complex, and we go off into drifts of dialogue. Well, I learned it about a month ahead. I just spent an entire month in New York, unbeknownst to a lot of people, just learning my lines. And even then, it took a whole rehearsal of 4 weeks for us to really polish that up to the point
because
where we didn't
in
have to
addition
think about it
to just the learning, the cues are not, I mean, you can learn almost anything if you follow the logic of something.
Right.
It's not difficult.
Right.
But if it's interrupted by a tennis score,
Right.
30-40, 15-something, what's that?
And that's a cue. That's
Where's
a
that
word
going?
cue for what your next line is.
And also, at the same time, you're watching the match. So you're
Yes.
talking and you're following the sound cue of the ball game.
But I think the fact that the match is going on makes the play live and makes it live. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
feel you are in the arena, not in an auditorium.
Right.
And
right.
so
well,
do we.
I was there opening night, and the first time you guys look up this way, the whole audience looked where you were looking. But when you have this sort of massive amounts of text to do, do you ever just, the lines suddenly go out the window and you forget where are we?
Absolutely.
And then there's the old, just we're stage actresses and we improvise and
Make it up as you go along. Absolutely.
But
Bet your life.
we both know where we are all the time and who we are all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
You see?
So-
And the actual words are are human. They aren't, it's not poetry, it's not from another time, it's our time. And so we can help each other get back quickly and easily.
Now, it's really interesting, because I was there opening night, and I thought there was a little moment where some scenes sort of got fuddled up somehow, and I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. And you guys just looked at each other and still the characters and sallied forth. I thought it was great.
I didn't see any fuddle.
It's a challenge, and that's why we love it.
Yeah.
It isn't easy to do,
No,
but if we can make you think it is, that's great.
Yeah, effortless.
Effortless,
It seems
yeah.
effortless.
But you're up there together, and
Exactly.
you are not just saying memorized lines. There's this wonderful fact that you are up there together,
Exactly.
acting and working together, and
Exactly.
that's what makes it such a magnificent
Well, for me,
experience.
that's the way the sports metaphor works for the theater. We're depending on each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a game,
Right.
and we each must play the game.
Have you got, I'm sorry?
Yes, no,
Have you been friendly for years, two of you?
We've known each other for a number of years.
I'll tell you
And
something.
Marian worked with me, well, you tell.
Well, if you meet her, and I met her before I did Murder, She Wrote, ever, she's so there for you, and the next time you meet her, it's hello, and she remembers you. And that's something I'm learning to do, to be open to everybody, and then we're all in the same family, is what I'm trying to say. And Angela.
You provided work on Murder, She Wrote for a whole group of Broadway actors for years.
How lucky I was.
And was that something you did deliberately? I mean, I love that old show, and not that old, but I see it on the reruns, and I think there is a parade of great Broadway performers. I mean, was that something you had the power to do that? And you could say, I want
Yes,
my
did.
friends on the show.
Absolutely, I did. And I mean, what a wonderful group to pull from, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was this person this week, that person that week, and everybody came out to the coast. They were well paid. They had a nice little stay.
And then you made
a week
TV
or 10
careers.
days.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
You made TV careers, like for instance Jerry Orbach, who you brought on and really
Jerry.
got him into TV.
Jerry sat in my dressing room. I always remember this on the set and in my trailer, as we called it out there. And he said, "Oh, Angie," he said, "if I'd give anything in the world to get a series." He said, "I've made a lot of money in the theater, but I haven't got a penny of it. I need an annuity." I said, "Well, Jerry, you come to the right place." And he did.
Now, you did
Because why?
Roseanne. No, you played the mother of...
No, that was Estelle Bars.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking...
Cut.
Cut. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I thought there was a part that you had on a TV show that I've...
No. I pretend, I nod and say yes, because people tell me I've done wonderful work on television, and I know it's not me, but I smile at them.
But she's done great work in movies. I mean, that's the thing that people forget. She's, done some very, very interesting things. And occasionally, I've thought, God, that's Marian Seldes.
Oh yes, no, and you do wonderful work on television. I see you every now being creepy on Law and Order, or
Yes.
that wonderful when you were you and Vanessa were the gay lovers, and you fell out of the tree.
Are you kidding?
What?
Was that? That's interesting.
Vanessa Redgrave and you were the...
Oh, it was
gay,
fantastic.
what was
It was
that?
beautiful,
It was
beautiful.
called If These Walls Could Talk,
Beautiful.
and it was extraordinary.
It was extraordinary.
It was a beautiful thing, and of course, you see, you do work with great people on television, and I have never worked with Vanessa before or after that, but something
Spectacular.
to do.
It's like me getting to work with Laurence Olivier on
Yes,
television.
Exactly.
What did you do with him?
Well,
on
I did a movie called A Talent for Murder with him. It was incredible. It was at the end of his career and
How was he then?
almost the end of his life.
How was he? Could you tell that it was...
Oh, he was, it was one of those instances where I found myself, I had to carry the piece. I played this woman who was in a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair, and she was all done up like Betty Davis. And we did a whole Betty Davis number. And he played my doctor, an old lover. Well, we laughed our way through it, but it was sort of sad and awful. I hated the fact that he wasn't well and he had to read all his lines off.
Well, we have to end this interview. I'm sorry,
Oh,
but I
now
just
we're
want to
done.
say I'm delighted that we cannot say anything remotely about you two, like Laurence Olivier was at the end in Deuce, because you're sparkling and as lively as I know you to be, because I love everything that you do in the theater, and I think you just match her sparkle for sparkle in that play.
Thank you. I'm so lucky and so blessed to have the opportunity to work with Marian.
And we will see you again on stage, right?
Yes, yes.
After
yes.
Deuce.
Oh, hopefully, yes.
yes.
Look
Angela
forward.
Lansbury, Marian Seldes,
Thank you.
Wonderful women, great performances in Deuce at the Music Box Theater.
Do not miss it.
Thank you for being our guest on Theater Talk.
Advantage, Montbain-Crier.
Do you know if she's a lesbian?
Which one?
The Czech. But either one of them, now that we're at it.
It's impossible to tell anymore.
So many of them are now.
Kane, Montbain-Crier.
Everyone thought we were lesbians.
Because we were so good. But now, even some of the very poor players are lesbians. It used to be a pledge of excellence.
The men wanted all the women to be lesbians so that they could label women's tennis a freak show. I think they were sort of disappointed when only some of them actually turned out to be.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, plus public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency, and the Theater Development Fund's Technical Accessibility Program, which helps provide closed captioning.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.